Hi, my name is Abdurrahman Tainab, and I'm recording this video to demonstrate the fifth assignment in iOS development course. And in this assignment, I completed the backend logic for the To-Do application. I also implemented Firebase connection and make sure the data is valid, and also made some confirmation if about the user's choices, whether they want to add, delete, or update. Now let me get into the code. It's a little bit messy, but I documented it as much as I can. Anyways, on the right here I have all of the code files. On the left is all the design files. Now I have already went through the cell design over here in the previous video, and right now I'm just gonna go through the those two main screens over here that I created newly and the segues for them. So there are two screens, and in the previous assignment, it was just one of them, which is the to-do details, and now I have the create new to-do and the to-do details. So when you press create new, you will be presented as this model screen over here, and when you just try to edit one of the existing to-dos, you will just be presented with this one. Okay, so how does this happen? First, let me show you how all of the data is inserted here. Now this is just for testing. Okay, so over here, loading the data from the database. When I try to load the data from the database, first what I do is I make sure that it is empty, and the list is empty, because over here this list is where I store the to-do objects. And this method over here is a Firebase method that will basically refresh every time there's a change in the database. So db.collection with my own collection name that I already identified in the constants file, and .add snapshot listener is basically the same as get document. Instead, it will just update every time there's a change in the database, basically. And so every time there is a change, this function will be called. And what will be called exactly here is that we will make the lists empty so that we don't have any duplicates shown on the screen. And then we will show every document's details over here, and we will create a list object out of it. So we will get the name, notes, due date, and whether it's completed or not, and we will create a new object out of it, and then we'll append this object into the list that we have. And we will, once it's appended, we will use the main thread to reload the data of the table view so that it wouldn't crash. Okay, so this is how the data is fetched and shown and reloaded on the screen. And this segue over here is because when I want to press edit on one of the to-dos or one of the cells, I want to capture all of the data that is associated with this cell specifically. So what I do is I send the list object. The list object is basically just like this, and it gets sent through here, and then I cast it as a list to make sure that it will behave the same way, and then I get the name, notes, due date, and whether it's complicated or not. And all of those are sent to the destination view controller, which is the details view controller over here. Okay, and I've already covered this, but there's a new part over here, and those two lines here are important because this is where I assign the tags based on the index path of the list. So what I do here is I check the list's index, and I assign the same index to the buttons tag or the switch button tag, so that I can easily access the equivalent data. Okay, and those this if and else over here is checks whether the the data is completed or not, and if it's completed, like if it has the to-do is completed or checked or whatever, if it's on, then yes, it will be completed, and it will be like grayed out over here, so I assign the alpha to 0.2, and if it's not completed yet, then it will be more visible. Okay, so when we press the switch to check the to-do, make it completed, what happens is that I access the database over here by the name of the data that is sent through the tag. So that's why I capture the tag, because I access the list with the same index of the tag, and then it's easy to access its details. So then I can get its name and I can update it on the database. And I only update this field over here. And now when edit is pressed, we perform the segue, and as I've shown you earlier, I pass in the data that is and over here you can see it's also the same way that I've shown over here. So it's the sender tag, which is equivalent to the row. Okay, so this is it for showing the data. Now when we want to create the data, what I did here, okay, those are the outlets. This is a formatter, and this is the DB for the Firestore. What the formatter is for basically is because I want to capture a nice format from the date picker, because the date picker gives a really messy format, so I want to make it look more readable. And let me just run this in the background so that I wouldn't waste more time. Okay, and when we press whether it has a due date or not, based on whether it's on or off, then the date picker will be disabled or enabled by basically making it less visible and not interactable. So as you can see over here, I love potatoes is a to-do or whatever. This one is already completed, as you can barely notice. If I press edit, it will capture the correct details, and as you can see here, it is completed. So as you can see, if I make it not completed and I update, then it will be visible. I can also press it from here and then it will not be visible, and this one has no date, and so on. So if I also try to change something and I press cancel, it will ask you if you're sure you want to cancel. Then you can press no. You can press yes as well. Okay, now let me complete the explanation of the creating to-do. And okay, so over here I make sure that the user has input information in the name and the notes, because those are the most two important parts of the to-do. So otherwise they will be presented with an alert. Other than that, I will capture the name, the notes, the due date, and everything. I will also format the data, as I've said earlier, and then based on this data I will create the document name based on its name in the Firebase database, and then store it over there. And then I dismiss it. Okay, when cancel is pressed, as I've shown you, it asks the user if they are sure. And over here in the details, view controller, it's basically the same introduction over here, but the difference is when the view loads, it will show by default. So for example, see, this one does not have a due date, so when I press here, it's by default off, and this is uninteractable by default. But when I try to change it on, it will be interactable just fine. And I can also update it, and now it has date, although its name is no date to do, but I can just re-update it back. Okay, and now we have once I switch, this is what I've just shown you. Okay, and when update is pressed, what happens basically is it makes sure that the name and the notes are not empty as well, so that no one would delete it and try to update. and otherwise I'll just take the new name. And what I do here to make sure that there's a new record with a new name if the user wants to change the name of the to-do is I compare it with the name that is given from the previous view controller or the view controller, and I make sure if it's not the same, and then I make a new document and delete the old one. So if it's not the same, I will delete the document with the old name, and then I will continue on to create the new document with a new name. However, if it is still the same, it doesn't matter. This code will not be activated, and it will just override the data over here. Okay, so when delete is pressed, this is basically the delete function, and this is the delete button function. And when delete is pressed, it will show the user with two alerts. Sorry, one alert and two options. And it asks the user basically if they're sure they want to delete this to-do. If yes they are sure, then this function will be called, as you can see over here, self.delete function. And what delete function does, basically it accesses the document based on its name, and it just deletes it. Otherwise it will just continue. And cancel, it makes sure that the names, the note, and whether it's completed or not, or if any of those are touched or changed, then pressing cancel will show this pop-up or alert, and then the user has the freedom of choice to do whatever. Okay, let me demonstrate Firebase over here. There it is. As you can see, this is my database, and let's try to add a new list. I love Swift, and let's say learn more about protocols, master something cool, nice, whatever. Okay, let's say it has a due date of December 7th at 12, maybe 12:59 or 11:59 p.m. And let's say we press create, and there it is. I love Swift with the data. And of course, you might wonder why it doesn't have the is completed switch over here, because it doesn't make sense to create an already completed list by default. Okay, so let's see here. I love Swift. Let's try to update this, and let's try to remove the due date. You can see here that it's not interactable anymore. Let's try to update something here and remove those. So it is just I love Swift, and now we update, and you can see here I love Swift is updated. What we can also do is update the name. I love Xcode, and notice what's going to happen over here. I love Xcode is created, I love Swift is deleted, and if you try to check its data, it's basically the same because it copies the same data over. And when I check and make sure that it's completed over here, it's also changed over here, and it's grayed out over here. So everything is basically implemented as required. I'm sorry if I made this long. I tried to be as short as possible. If you have any question, or if I have missed something by chance, please send me an email, and I'll gladly respond back. Thank you very much, and please have a great day.